Well, look what time it is, everybody. It is time for Jon Ferrian Live. We are here tonight with Tori Billings out of Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and we are going to have an epic-sode for you tonight. You know, once in a while we have episodes. Most of the time we have episodes, but every once in a while we got an episode that I know is going to be so amazing. We're going to call it an epic-sode right from the beginning. It's kind of like Babe Ruth calling his shot. Episode is about to happen right here. So tune in, share it out. Right now is a perfect time. I see Patrick Fines is here. We got Matt down in Colorado, Mr. Uchinero. Tia Smith is here. Mr. Patrick Fines, happy 2021 to you as well. That's right, everybody. This is the first episode of 2021, guaranteed to be the best year of your life. Make it happen. Make it happen, everybody. Let's get on here. Guys, who do we got in the show? Let's make sure you drop it in the comments of who's watching, where you're watching from. Let us know where you're watching from. And let me know if over Christmas and New Year's, did you get out and go riding? I sure hope so. Some things I want to tell you guys about tonight is we got Mr. Todd Kramer here from Colorado, or from Idaho, from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Dave Wagner's here from California. We got some other folks here. We got Billy is here. We got Jeremiah is here. Christian is here. All kinds of folks are tuning in to Jon Ferrian Live tonight. Let me tell you guys, I've got new beanies available on the website. We've got the BRAP Live Large shirt is out there. The new beanies are only $20. Throw it on your order, plus shipping. We'll get it sent out to you. And as usual, you can get in to win. So the epic prizes from the Ride Rasmussen style, the Level 1 clinics, those all just wrapped up at the end of December. Within the next week or so, we're going to be tallying up all of the units of items that everybody ordered, and we're going to get those out there, and you guys are going to draw a big winner within the next week or two. Before the 15th, I promise I'll make that happen. I just got to get all the reporting turned in here from the T-shirt printer and go from there. But this BRAP, Live Large shirt is an amazing shirt. Get on there and check that out on the website. We've got the Canadian Live Large shirt is here. Make sure you get out there, live life to the fullest. And we have the US flag, which is fitting for tonight because Miss Tori Billings, guess what? She was on the US snowboarding team, kicking ass, taking names out there on her snowboard, having a good old time. And the last thing I want to show you here is we have got the Fly Racing Snow sponsoring the show tonight. For everybody who shares the show right now is going to get in to win a Fly Racing hoodie, your choice. I put up this one here, the corporate zip-up hoodie. It's one of my personal favorites. I've got a couple of these. I love them. But you know what? Any hoodie on the website, you guys can take a pick of whichever one you want. Just watch the show tonight, share the show tonight, follow Fly Racing Snow on Instagram and on Facebook. And then let's just kill the music here and let's get down to business. Let's see one more time. Who else is here? We got Jeremy Harvey is here. We got David Knapp is here. Kevin Carell is here. Byron Ferrian is here. Mr. Ferrian, that's me. Mr. Ferrian, that's Byron. He's out there in Idaho as well. Lots of great folks watching tonight. So let's go ahead and drop the screen down. We're going to bring you Tori Billings in 3, 2, and 1. How are you, Tori?
Hi. Good. How are you?
I am doing amazing. I sure hope you are as well.
Nice. I am. Thank you so much for having me. I'm psyched. So thank you.
That's awesome. So, Tori, you and I got to meet each other for the first time, I think on Facebook. We were probably already Facebook friends, or we got, that way there too. But in person, the first time I ever got to meet you was back in October of this year, back at the Salt Lake City Snow Show. Mr. John Miller, our mutual friend, introduced us, and I got to say hi to you over in the Ordervox booth. That was awesome.
Oh, it was so great. Honestly, I love going to those shows, and John Miller has introduced me to so many people, by the way. So I feel honored to be introduced to you and everybody that he has introduced me to through Tubi, Ordervox, now being part of Backcountry United with John. Thank you, John Miller.
Yeah, no worries.
But it was great meeting you. And again, it was awesome to have a show. Our Denver show had gotten canceled. Heydays was canceled. Was super bummed about that one, but it was great to be in Salt Lake.
Very cool, very cool. So we got lots of people here watching tonight. We've got what do we got? About 75 live viewers here already, Tori. They're all coming in to check in and see who you are, what you're all about. I'm guessing there's a lot of your fans and your followers that are here watching tonight, just like the regular weekly watchers that are here as well. I see a lot of familiar names and I see some new names. So people are here cheering you on. Awesome, awesome. So that Salt Lake show, you were there supporting Ortovox in the booth there, right? So that's one of your current sponsors is who you have as well, or are you partnered with Ortovox?
Yeah, correct. So yeah, I am an ambassador for Ortovox. I think that is such a great program that all these companies do is have
Oh, absolutely.
ambassadors, right? So
Yeah,
bring these ambassadors out, help them sell their product, talk about it. I also ran around to little booths and other shops that were there helping sell Ortovox. So
yeah,
it was a blast being able to educate new families and new people, with backcountry gear. I think it was super popular. Definitely one of the busiest shows as far as backcountry gear goes and explaining it all.
yeah.
People are getting out there and wanting to know about it. So,
Yeah, yeah. So, Tori, one of the things that I usually lead on to with the guests, but I don't go into a lot of detail, is like before each of our shows, I usually have like kind of a check-in session with my guests, and some of them are like 5-10 minute conversations. And I looked actually back at our Skype call, our last one, and our Skype call was 45 minutes long. Do you remember? Did you realize that?
I did actually. I think I looked back at it when I was getting off tonight. I was like, "Whoa,
Yeah,
that
and
was
so
a
like
long
I
conversation
kind of
that went
told you,
quick."
I'm like Tori, we basically just did the show, which is amazing because it
Yeah,
means you've got so much incredible things to share and so many awesome things to go into. And what we want to first do is just kind of let everybody know, like, who the heck is Tori Billings? Like, right? Where did you grow up? Kind of what's your background? What do we need to know about you and what you're about that'll bring us then forward into kind of the current world that we're going to go into a little bit later. So,
yeah, for sure. Well, I grew up in Colorado. I grew up
okay.
in Steamboat. My family's still here. I grew up with a twin brother and grew up snowboarding. So I have a big background in snowboarding. Like you said, was on the U.S. team for half pipe. So I really, started, being competitive young with having a twin brother and had to do everything he did. Got into
Who's older?
motocross,
I got to
snowboarding.
know. Whenever the twin story comes out, I
He,
got to like who's older.
yeah, yeah. He is by 2 minutes. He's
Two
got me.
minutes.
2 minutes.
Here's the
Yeah.
embarrassing part for your brother is that he got a 2 minute head start, and I bet you're still kicking his butt every day, day in and out, right?
Oh yeah, he's hurting. No, I'm just
Yeah, yeah,
kidding.
yeah. Like he's probably here watching. Maybe not. Maybe he is. I don't know. But your twin brothers. It's awesome. Like I think of I was one of 6 kids. So I know what it's like to be part of a big family and stuff too. But never had any twins in our family. But I can only imagine the dynamic that happens. What are some of your most fun memories of your brother and your competitiveness? Like, give us a good brother story from your competitive
Yeah.
days.
Well, it was funny, I think one of the biggest ones is back in our motocross days, they
Okay.
didn't have a girls group, right? So I was racing all the guys on
Yeah.
our 60s, and he usually got the whole shot, was, top five or whatnot, and he ended up falling in a corner and I full on passed him and ended up beating him one of the races. And I think that was definitely the most memorable on
There
my
you go.
side. But same thing, he was an incredible snowboarder and, really just pushed each other
Yeah.
with that. But was fortunate, yeah, to have a friend and somebody push me like that.
That's
And
very
that's
cool.
kind of, yeah, where my competitive side started, I guess. But yeah, was here in Steamboat, competed for a while, ended up having to get knee surgery and retired at the young age of 21, I believe,
Holy smokes.
and came back. Yeah, came back to Steamboat and started coaching, and then in 2 years it turned into a career.
Yeah.
So I directed the snowboard program for Steamboat Springs Winter Sports Club. It's a nonprofit organization.
Yeah.
We had kids from 4 years old all the way up to World Cup and Olympic athletes.
Wow.
And so I ran that program for 10 years. And really my out of kind of that snowboard world was snowmobiling. One of the moms actually one of the kids I coached took me out snowmobiling. I think it was about 6, 7 years ago, and I ended up buying her 2011, Pro RMK.
Wow.
And so it's really cool watching your show because everybody that's on it have been, grew up snowmobiling and riding all their lives and as little kids. So I definitely came into it late. but then again, I think that's where my competitive side came out, and I was like, man, I'm gonna get
Yeah.
good, and I want to get be the best I can at
That's
this.
enough.
So
Yeah.
I was super fortunate. Met some amazing people, and there's an incredible crew of riders here that I got to tag along with.
Yeah.
That really pushed me. One of them, is Jen McPherson.
Yeah.
She, I was riding with her one time, and she's like, "Oh, can you do this? Can you wrong foot forward? Can you do that?" I'm like, "Wait, what?" So I
So
was really
I think a
fortunate to
lot of
not
our
have to.
folks that are watching
Yeah,
probably know Jen
yeah,
McPherson, and I think what I want to do is I want to kind of you kind of gave us a quick high level overview of a lot of the things that drove your
yeah,
competitiveness, your background stuff too. And what I want to do is I want to kind of unpack it a little bit, right? Let's go a little deeper into
yeah.
some of these things, and let's go back to the snowboarding thing. I mean, you just barely touched on it, but like there's this whole amazing story behind your background in snowboarding. First of all, like growing up in Steamboat Springs specifically, is that where you grew up, or in another area near there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Steamboat
Nope.
Springs area, I can only imagine that it was pretty much in the local DNA that you and all your friends and your brother, everybody's up on the mountain, right? Up on the ski hill, pretty much every weekend when you're not in school, I would imagine that's how you spent your time, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
And
we have this cool little hill downtown called Howelson Hill, and it's lit up at night. So we actually used to go after school and go snowboard at Howelson Hill. So
yeah.
yeah, it was 7 days a week. Yeah, it was fun.
So when was the first, how old were you when you first slapped a snowboard on your feet? Were you like two or like
Oh
one or
geez.
like probably you had to be
Yeah.
big
Well, I
enough to get
started
on it?
skiing. Yeah, I started skiing when I was 2. My mom was a phenomenal skier. She was in all the Warren Miller films, and
Oh wow.
uh, yeah, she was incredible. So I started skiing at 2. I was supposed to be her little ski racer,
Nice.
and then yeah, turned into a little snowboarder. I believe I started snowboarding when I was about 8 or 9,
Hmm.
and then got on the US team when I was 15.
So how did
Yeah,
that like
and
I mean
then
you just
traveled.
talk about this like yeah then I got on like wait a minute like you got on the US team and like how the heck did that happen?
Yeah,
Like were you just snowboarding one
yeah,
day and you ran into somebody on the US team or did you go like aspire to apply for it or like how did that happen?
yeah.
Like you don't just get on
So
the
it's all,
US team.
yeah, yeah. No, so it's all competitions. So
Okay. Okay.
there's grassroots competitions, and then that builds into larger competitions like Grand Prix,
Yeah.
um, and then those Grand Prix turn into World Cups. So really, it's points, it's your ranking,
Okay.
um, and then yeah. So I was definitely one of the youngest ones. It was me and Hannah Teeter that got on that were pretty young then, and yeah, so it was all World Cup points and Grand Prix points, and competed around the world for a few years, and
I was just
yeah, it
going to
was
ask
super
that next.
fortunate.
Like,
It
what are
was
some of the
amazing.
coolest
Yeah,
places that you got to go on on your snowboard tour with the
yeah.
U.S. team? Like, where did you get to go?
Been all over Europe, Italy, Germany. We were on the border of Germany and Czech Republic was pretty cool. Japan was amazing. We went out there for the Tokyo Big Air,
Yeah.
and there was 60,000 fans
Holy
in
smokes!
3 days. Yeah, they built this huge jump and quarter pipe off of scaffolding in the Tokyo Dome,
Wow.
and it was all ice shavings from an ice rink. So yeah,
Wow.
that was pretty crazy. Yeah, so definitely yeah, fortunate. And then that's where I wanted to take all my experiences from all my coaches, and we're
Yeah.
inspired by so many different people in the snowboard world, that then I was able to share it,
Yeah.
come back to Steamboat, and be a part of all these other young kids'
Yeah.
lives, and also these coaches, help educate them and grow these coaches and grow their careers. So yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah.
Definitely
So
fortunate.
like many extreme athletes like, before yourself too, like there's a point where you push yourself so hard it sounds like you sustained an injury that, basically forced
Yeah,
you to retire from professional snowboarding. But that like most things, right? Though like, something that most would look at as maybe a problem or a catastrophe, you looked at in a way as like an opportunity, right? And so this idea of like teaching and training others and getting, helping pass your skills and your motivations on to other people. And something you shared with me privately in our conversation was that your passion for teaching and showing other people, whether it be snowboarding or snowmobiling, we'll get to in a little bit here, but that's where kind of the roots of that came from. Is you probably already had that in you, but like it just kind of evolved into coaching and training other elite athletes over time as well. And
yeah,
holy smokes, you were doing that. and then all of a sudden, I want to go back to that moment in time where a friend of yours invited you to go snowmobiling. Tell me about that day again. Do you go back to that day in the
Yeah.
time where like, okay, Tori's this like professional snowmobiler, she's a professional coach,
Yeah.
and why wouldn't she want to go snowmobiling? I'm sure your friend thought, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And she knows how competitive I was, you know. And I mean, snowmobiling, I'd been obviously a few times, but and the most I'd been around a snowmobile was being towed behind it into quarter pipes at 40
Nice.
miles an hour, you know. But anyway, so got on the snowmobile. I'm like, oh yeah, it's like dirt biking. I can just go right through anything, right? I think like the first time it was just straight into the biggest creek, you know, thinking I could get right out of it. And then there's, you know, the guys that were with us that again I've been fortunate to tail around with them, John Asta and Bushman, and they're just like shaking their heads, you know. Um, but anyway, yeah, so it was cool. And then from then on, I was like, this is hard. I want to get good at it. How do I do it? So I bought her sled. Thing blew up. Like, put so much money into it, trying to get it to run. And then that next year, I was like, oh, I need to buy a new sled. So bought a brand new sled. And then I was like, oh, game on. I'm doing this 2 year thing, right? I'm buying a new sled every 2 years.
There you go.
And then yeah, and then I met some amazing people, you know, through the snowmobile world, just through my one friend who introduced me to snowmobiling in the backcountry. And that's where I met Jen. And yeah, and her and I rode every weekend. She'd stay at my place every
Yeah,
weekend, and we just were determined to get good and ride through the trees and pick some funny, gnarly lines.
very cool.
And yeah, it was super cool. So I was so fortunate to have somebody like that teach me, you know,
Yeah,
the right way. And coming from a girl and using, you know, your weight and your throttle and your brake and not have any bad habits to break, I would say.
hmm,
So that's where I was like, I want to share everything that I've learned in the past, you know, several years of snowmobiling
yeah.
with other people. I want them to have that same experience that I had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so let's dive into this snowmobiling a little bit, and then we'll kind of circle back a little bit later into kind of the Colorado snowmobile rental program too. We'll kind of do that maybe towards the end, but let's go deeper into the snowmobiling pieces. You know, for those who you're saying the name Jen McPherson, and I think a lot of us know who she is, but for those who maybe don't, give us a little background on Jen and why she was so instrumental in kind of your personal development and coaching. I mean, she's a pretty aggressive rider, right? Like big air, like a
Yeah.
lot of aggressive. Like, give us a little background on Jen for a second to give us some context.
Well, I think the biggest thing with both of us was that we were competitive. So we were
Yeah.
like full on competitive with each other. Like, oh, she did that line, I'm gonna go do it, you know? Like, oh, she hit that jump, I'm gonna go do it. So, you know, that's where we kind of really fed off of each other. And, you know, it was like she kind of had a gnarly experience with a drop, and then that's where I'd come in and help her with a drop. And so I think really just that competitive, but that driven and get up, do it again kind of thing. You know, and then hitting jumps. Yeah, we started hitting small step ups and really figuring out jumping together,
Okay.
and then yeah, then started hitting some pretty big step ups together. So yeah, huge inspiration. She's awesome. I'm fortunate to have her, and yeah,
Very cool. Very cool. And
yeah,
some of the background that you have of your competitiveness in snowboarding. Something you said to me was being air aware or air awareness, right? Can you describe to
yeah,
everybody what that means, and then how you've been able to translate that into some of your snowmobile skills?
yeah, for sure. I think air awareness. That's I think a huge thing, right? In any jump you're hitting, whether snowboard, dirt bike, snowmobile, all of that, right? Knowing, you know, your body, knowing how to take off on that lip of the jump, knowing where you are in the air, how to correct something in the air, you know, and how to land, right? So I think all of that, you know, is kind of not the same, but I think growing up in the air
Yeah.
helped and it got me to hit these bigger snowmobile jumps in the past few years. And that too, like, I mean, years and years of competitive snowboarding and in the half pipe. That's what I was on the US team for, was half pipe. You're in that half pipe every single day, right? And you're
Hmm.
in there freezing cold, you know, standing at the top of that pipe and having to practice and practice and practice and practice and practice. You're practicing on tramps, practicing on water ramps, all that. And I think that also helped, with these jumps that I, really take the time to know the speed, right? So speed checking, I always speed check with other guys and
Yeah.
make sure that I know the exact speed to hit it at and I'm comfortable. And yeah, I think that all kind of comes together to make sure it's safe. I think when I was younger, I didn't do a lot of that, and that's where some of these injuries
Yeah.
came from.
Yep.
So being a little bit older, I think a little wiser and taking the time to do those steps
Yep.
definitely helps.
Yeah, instead of just like taking that big giant leap of faith, it's like, ramping up and a little bit too. And I think, that's a big thing when I, get somebody of your caliber of riding out there too. And like, I think, for those who saw the teaser post from earlier in the week, is there was a picture of you, like, I don't think we could even see the ground. I think we saw the top of the trees in the background.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
that jump, what did you say? It was like 100, 150 feet or something like that you cleared in that
Yeah,
jump?
it was like 100, 156 feet, I think it was.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And that's the thing, I guess, I always try to just highlight to people is like, as cool as it is to watch all these pro riders, doing these sick jumps and all these cool things, it's like what people don't always get to see is like, what it takes to get to that level and to be able to do it safely. Because, every year we hear about someone, I think Spring Fling, right, was one of the events where,
Yeah.
was it Jen that got hurt pretty bad at one of those events, right? Where, she come up
Yeah.
short on there too. And so even with lots of practice, you still can come up short. But the idea of, not just going for it sometimes, but, doing the speed checks and kind of the build up to it and the practice, like it becomes just second nature for you
Yeah.
guys. So.
Well, not even that, like that day, actually, that was more conditions,
Okay.
So I was out there early in the morning before anybody hitting it with a few of the guys. And you can only hit that thing on a snowmobile a few times before the whole transition bombs out. And then
Got it.
once it starts bombing out and then it gets warmer in that spring snow, like it's losing all that pop to get up and over that big road gap.
Starts flattening out.
So
Yeah.
really, yeah. So really it's like knowing, the conditions and knowing when to stop,
Yeah.
right? Like, all right, you know what? I hit that thing like 10 times. I'm feeling good. Yeah, there's a bunch more people showing up, I'm going to be done, but definitely knowing the conditions, your snowmobile and
Yeah.
everything to be safe,
Yep. No,
Yeah.
very cool. Very cool. And so at
Yeah.
some point in time, you got connected with what's now known, and I don't know if it was at the time or not too, but Colorado Snowmobile Rentals. So how was it that you first got interacted with, that organization? Kind of what was your affiliation with it? And let's talk a little bit about this new title that you have called Queen Bee. Like, tell me about what that means.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not about titles around here.
Oh, that's a pretty cool title. I
When,
mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't
yeah,
have any business cards handy, but mine doesn't say Queen Bee. Like,
yeah, yeah. No, they're not about titles around here. So our website guy, is talking to our owner, and he's like, "Well, what do I call her? What's her position?" And he's like, "I don't know, Queen Bee. She just does everything around
there you
there."
go.
So,
She just owns it all.
but yeah, I get shit done, John.
There you go. Get it done.
Yeah. No, it was super cool. I met all these guys 2 years ago and started guiding with them. And actually, so crazy story. I mean, I met my husband snowmobiling. Met him
Okay.
up in the woods up north, and
Was he lost or
he
did?
was good. No, actually, Jen and I were like just sitting on this gnarly side hill, just hanging out right there. And these guys come up, they're like, "Wait, you just rode up here, And anyway, so I met him snowmobiling, and what brought him to Steamboat was the owner of Colorado Sled Rentals,
Got it. Okay.
and the founders of Colorado Sled Rentals. So it was kind of cool how it all intervened, and met these guys, and yeah, it started guiding because they wanted a female up in here. And yeah, guided on my downtime and absolutely loved it, and wanted to get out of that snowboard industry, and just
Yeah.
kept falling more and more in love with this snowmobile industry and wanted to do more in it. So they grew a ton last year, got more snowmobiles this year, knew it was going to be a busy year.
Very cool.
So yeah, I was super excited to come in and really help with all the operation sides, right? So really, yeah, have been managing all the operations, and we did our guide training early December. Have a lot more guides. We have 14, including our one owner and our two shop kids. So
Yeah.
that's been pretty cool. Was really transferring over everything. In my previous position, I'd certify coaches, snowboard coaches,
Very cool.
and so kind of brought that over to the snowmobile world into our guide training.
Okay.
So really taught them how to do, group management, time management, progressions, emergency situations. We've got our Airy one coming up here in a couple of weeks with Brian Lundstedt that I'm super stoked about.
Very cool.
So yeah, just kind of organizing guides and here, and it's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
I love everything about it, especially guiding. So it's cool bringing out new families that have never done it to people that are just
Yeah.
trail riding and they want to come out here and see what the backcountry is all about. So
Well, let's go into that because this was probably one of the favorite parts of my conversation with you. A few days ago was at the end of this. We talked for, like I said, 40 some minutes, and at the end, I says, "Okay, Tori, we've talked about a lot of things. I literally have, like, no joke, people. Like, I've got 4 pages of notes from my conversation with Tori, and my final thing was like, Tori, if you had to narrow this down to like one thing, like what it is that you want to kind of like, what message you want to deliver, what do you want to kind of just throw out there? Your answer was what?
what?
It was getting families, right? It was
Yeah,
families out on the snow and
absolutely.
teaching
Yeah.
families how to get out there. And so what does that mean to you? Like, let's talk about that a minute. Let's kind of like dive into when you say getting families into the sport in a fun and safe way, like what does that mean to you specifically? And then let's go into like how you guys offer that experience at Colorado Snowboat Rentals.
Yeah. Yeah, and really that providing that experience, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the backcountry and our public lands, like it is amazing out there. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so fortunate to have it 360 degrees around us here in Steamboat. And again, it goes back to that first time of going up on Buff Pass sledding with some girlfriends. Like that was an incredible experience that I want to share with everybody. And my favorite, is dad and mom and teenage daughters and son, and they're all out there
Mm-hmm.
on these badass 850 machines and learning how to pow turn and work together to get unstuck,
Yeah.
and getting to know the gear. I think it's just a really cool opportunity to be able to share that, and not even that in a safe way, right? It's getting busy up there, and
Yeah.
people are going up there not knowing, not having the gear, not experienced. So to be able to provide that is pretty amazing. And not even that, girls, like I love to get girls out there, right? And
Yeah.
also to show them that they can do everything, without a guy. Right?
Yeah.
Like we'll go teach you how to load your sled and unload it. And so that's where also these women's ride came about. We had our first one. We couldn't run ours last year due to COVID, but the year before that we had a full day, and we had 60 girls come out, half of them never evers, and it was incredible. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, is just being able to share and showcase what snowmobiling's about, really grow
Yeah.
that industry. And the cool part is really listening to, again, people on your show that grew up doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not too late to get into it.
Yeah.
I think is the cool part about it. But
Yeah. And it's like, I think of, somebody asked me a question the other day too, and and I think it relates to kind of what you're talking about too. And, somebody asked me like, well, hey, when is the right time to go and get quote unquote, like some professional riding instruction, right? Like whether it be through a place like a guiding place like yourself where you can go out and kind of do it, or whether it's somebody who's specifically like focused on that. There's the Matt Enzes
yeah,
out there, there's the Chris Brandts out
yeah,
there, there's the, all these different folks out there too. And someone asked me like, hey, when is the right time? Like I know what
yeah,
my answer was, and I'll share my answer in a minute, but I'm curious what your answer
yeah,
is on when's the right time to get kind of professional instruction. Is it early on? Is it
yeah,
mid on? Is it once you're a little bit of a better rider? I'm curious what your answer was
yeah.
on that. So
I would, yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd say take it anything, right? Like I'm all about education and
yeah,
like knowing how to do stuff the right
yeah,
way, and I want to learn quick to get better, right?
yeah,
But that's just me. So I actually got the opportunity. Steamboat Power Sports, they've been amazing. By all my dirt bikes, snowmobiles, everything through them. They're incredible support. They're amazing. They actually sent me to Chris Brandt for a day
Very
and
cool.
got to go ride with him that 2 years ago. And man, he doesn't sugarcoat anything, and it was awesome. I was the only girl; it was all guys,
It's like,
and
suck it
it
up, Buttercup,
was
right? Is that what he said?
yeah. Oh, it was he was shutting guys down, and I was like, oh my gosh.
It's
Um,
hilarious.
but it it was amazing. So I definitely highly recommend going to something like him or Matt. Matt's got a great opportunity, especially for females, with Kim Onash
Yeah.
and Jen McPherson. For the ladies, and that right there, like the things they teach you, just to maneuver that sled and get to that next level
Yeah.
and get you side hilling and doing the right moves,
Yeah.
right? And not and getting rid of those bad habits. I
Yeah.
highly recommend it. I mean, any chance you can get, I would say, I'd say midway through, I guess. But
Yeah. Well, I think any chance
yeah,
you can get is the answer I would go with personally too. There's
yeah,
and
yeah,
the cool part is there's no wrong answer, because I think,
yeah, yeah,
here's what I've seen and what I've experienced is that, a really good instructor or trainer can take someone who's a beginner level person and help them advance quickly to their next level. They can also take a mid-level rider and they can assess their skills and coach them and teach them or correct them based on what their skills are at so far, right? And make them a better
yeah,
rider. Or they can take some of the best riders out there and critique them and make them even better riders, right? I think,
exactly.
that's the thing is, like, I don't think you're ever going to come short on, when is the right time of doing it. And so regardless of whether it's, I loved what was I never heard you, never evers, I think you called them. Is that what you call your clients that have never
Yeah,
ridden before? Never evers? That's awesome. I love that.
yes,
Where did
yeah.
that come from? Did you coin that term, or is that somebody else throw that at you?
No, I think that came from snowboard world. Like,
Okay.
yeah, no, we don't coach never ever.
That's hilarious. That's awesome. And you do now,
We were
right?
we were that next level.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, here at Colorado Sled Rentals, it is all abilities. Obviously, we're not that snowmobile tour where you're sitting and on a trail with 10, 20 people.
Yeah.
So that's kind of when we put it that next level after that. We're definitely not at that Chris Brandt. We've got some incredible guides that can
Yeah.
definitely teach you some amazing stuff. But yeah, right in that kind of in between. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And so let's describe a little bit about, like, the areas that you guys go to. And I know you and I were talking about, like, the areas that we guide in. Like, it's so cool. We can go way out there and there's nobody else. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, do you want to tell people where that is, or do you not? Like, and we kind of had that, like, internal
Yeah.
discussion of, like, do we really want to
Yeah.
share it? But bottom line is,
Yeah.
like, the experience that you guys offer of, whether it be never ever's coming in or somebody who just
Yeah.
wants to go out and experience the steamboat area, they can get a hold of you
Yeah.
guys and talk about the terrain and the areas you guys are going out into, just,
Yeah.
generally speaking, and what people can expect if they come in and hang out with you guys.
Yeah. Well, there's a few things that we offer. We've got 26 mountain sleds. We have 13 850 Chaos 165s and then 13 Pro 155s. So it's cool. We get a lot of people who, trail ride and want to just come rent the sleds, pick
Yeah.
them up. We've got trailers so they can literally come pick them up with the sled and go to any trailhead they want.
Yeah.
We recommend rabbit ears. Or again, if you're not very experienced, recommend a guide. And all of our permits are up north, 30 minutes of Steamboat,
Okay.
up by Steamboat Lake, past Clark. That's again, like that area is so amazing. I met my husband up there. We got married up there at Hunts
Very
Peak
cool.
Roadhouse. It is so cool. But the riding up there is beautiful. Again, you're not getting that traffic like Rabbit Ears Pass, everybody that's coming from Denver and easy accessible. So it is, a little bit of a drive. And it's perfect for us because we've got about 800 permits up there, and the riding, it's great. Trail system to big open pow fields to trees to some steeps and beautiful views. So really it's for all abilities, which I think is fantastic. You
That's
can
awesome.
have mom hang out on the trail or whoever on the trail and
Yeah.
take the kids to rip around. So
No,
it's a
absolutely.
really cool area. Yeah.
Well,
And there's some really cool lodging areas
yeah.
too, for snowmobilers to just come stay at Hunts Peak Roadhouse, ride right out of there, Midnight Ranch. So It's a
Yeah.
cool area.
Well, and the guides that are, you guys are, you like, yourself and the other guides are too. You guys, you talked a little bit earlier about like the guide training that everybody goes through, right? That you did earlier this season.
Mhm.
Just talk about some of the basic things that, to be a guide for Colorado sled rentals, what do they have to go through? Things like CPR for, whatever. Just give us a quick
Yeah,
list of the things that you guys have gone through training on and how you then
yeah,
apply that to your rides. Like, does it come up
yeah.
frequently? Is it be just Q&A with people? Let's just kind of dissect that a little bit. So,
Yeah, so you hit one of them, right? Yeah, first aid, CPR.
yep.
And this is all mandatory. And then motorized one AVI is mandatory. And then as well as they have to go through our guide training, right? So that's where we go through all of our terrain and terrain options and where we permit, but also, you know, terrain choices based
Hmm.
on ability
Yeah.
and group management. Yep. So they have to go through all that with us.
Yeah.
But Yeah, it's pretty cool. And not even that, those guys, all of our guides are really well experienced with that area. You know, we've got four, including me, that grew up here.
Oh,
So
very cool.
you definitely know the areas, and I think that's pretty rare too. But yeah,
Well, and I'd imagine, with all the time that you guys are out there, like it's no different than driving back and forth to work. At some point, there's going to be an accident, right? And
yeah,
there's, times where, someone maybe breaks a leg or breaks an arm, and you guys have to kick into action and get people off the mountain safely, and then be able to take care of the people who are still on the mountain as well, too, right? It's like, it's
yeah,
very unlikely and rare that it's going to happen in that situation. But I would imagine you guys have had some incident out there at some point in time that you've had to manage to. And as what were kind of some of the
yep,
lessons learned from that? If you had an incident, what were some of the
exactly.
lessons learned? So
Yeah, and I think that's with our this guide training that we did too. Was going over a lot of those scenarios, and how to deal with those situations.
yeah,
And um, But the biggest one for me that comes out of all of that, is my inner coaching from snowboarding and
yeah,
little kids and coaching kids and certifying snowboard coaches was, really progressions and appropriate terrain, right? Like
yeah,
avoid those situations.
yeah.
If you're going to go wheelie off of that, or if you're going to go jump that cornice, like more than likely your guest is going to follow you and
True
they're not
story,
going to be
right?
able to, and yeah, it's 100% true. And they're not going to be able to come out like you did.
True
so
story.
so yeah, so really avoiding those situations,
Yeah.
is the best practice.
Well, and it really
But
goes from, being a guide is one of those things. And, because like even through our snowball club, like I do a lot of club rides and stuff too. And it's something that I don't think a lot of people really assess is, to be a good ride leader, AKA to be a good guide, like to some degree, it's a whole different experience. Like to go out there, like, and I'll just kind of speak very kind of bluntly here, and then I'll let you kind of pick it up from there. Is
yeah, no, you're
like
good.
most of our riding out there is all of us as snowmobilers. I think to some degree, if we really think about it, it's very selfish riding. It's like I want to hit the best pow, I want to hit that jump or that corner surfer too. But when you become a ride leader or a guide, like now it becomes about like how do I make sure that my guests or my people who are on my ride with me are going to have the best experience, right? It's like sometimes you get to
Yeah,
an area and you hold back and you're like, oh yeah, like I
yeah,
want to go shred that pow in that meadow over there,
yeah,
but I'm going to save it for my clients, right? Or my guests and stuff too. And so, what are
oh
some of
yeah.
the dynamics that you've had to kind of adjust for yourself going from just personal riding to guiding that are similar to that, right?
Oh no, that you nailed that one. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's like all about that guest that day, right?
Yeah.
But then again, it's like, I mean, most of the time I actually have a blast riding. There's always
Yeah.
opportunities for me to ride, and they actually love watching you ride.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember having a group of, 16-year-old boys and their dad, and they would not listen to me. You're like, hey, here's these boundaries. Oh no, like straight past those boundaries.
Squirrel.
And yeah. And it took me to literally have to rip around, go do, some gnarly donuts, and then go jump this little road gap for them to like, oh, okay, I'm going to listen to her now. You know what
Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean?
oh crap. She knows what
Uh,
she's doing, right?
yeah, so you can still definitely ride and have fun and do that, but absolutely, you've got to backtrack and be like, it's all about the guests. And then recently, super fun is as guiding a group, I always take the lead and then have them follow. And so it's been a lot of breaking trails.
Yeah.
So I'm full on pow riding, up these trails that have a couple feet of fresh snow on them. But then I have to chill out because then it's really hard for these new guests to they can't ride through they can't pow turn quite yet,
Yeah.
so you've almost got to make a road back and forth
Wow.
to have them ride in, and then get to areas to where they can play in the powder. But yeah, you definitely are gearing it towards them. So
That's very cool. And so, what I've found is like a lot of it is if you can, and it's I'm gonna call this a metaphor for life. Is being a good guide is kind of like being a good living your best life is. It's all about perspective in life, right? It's like if you can
yeah,
figure out how to find happiness in helping others find happiness, it
yeah,
changes everything for you, right? Like it's you think of
yeah,
like oh my god, the world 2020, I get it personally, I get a kick out of this is like everybody's like just condemning 2020, it was the worst year ever, and I'm over here
yeah,
secretly going like, you know 2020 didn't suck for me. Like I pretty much had the best year of my life between, getting
yeah,
an amazing new job, doing this amazing new Live Large University scholarship program, raising all this money with all these incredible partners. The show this year has been killing it. Like, and I go through this list of like my marriage is awesome, my kids are awesome. Like 2020 didn't suck for me. But I could also
yeah,
sit here and
absolutely.
I could tell the exact same stories of all the things that happened in 2020 if I wanted to focus on the negative aspects of it and like, oh yeah, I did lose my job. Oh bummer. Oh, this did happen. Oh darn. But it's like it's about perspective and like how do you find happiness and where do you
Yeah,
find happiness, right? And as a guide, it's like, oh man, I'm not getting to shred those epic pow turns, but like, oh my
yeah,
god, that kid just gave me a high five. Like they had the best day of their
yeah,
lives, right? It's like just changing your
yeah.
perspective of what you look for to find happiness in life. It goes from like just average, like it was okay, to like, oh my god, it was the most amazing time I ever had. So
No, I think that is the coolest part, right? Is exactly what you just said. Is what? Yeah, I could be shredding that or with my buddies and picking the gnarliest lines, but honestly, it is just as gratifying
yeah,
watching these people ride POW and figure it out and
yeah,
have fun and be in the backcountry, and even learning about the gear. These guys have never put on a beacon before, and teaching them how to throw out a probe and
yeah,
beacon, shovel, and radio, and they just think that's awesome.
yeah.
Having a two-way radio right there.
Hey, we all
um,
grew we all grew up playing with walkie talkies as we were kids, right? It's
yeah,
like now we get to do it as
oh
adults.
yeah, yeah, and I think that's even more gratifying too, is coming back and talking to all the guides like, hey, how was your day? And they're like, oh my god, it was so awesome, look at these pictures, look at this
Yeah.
kid, he was totally ripping. And yeah, so it is gratifying, and it's amazing, it's good.
Very good, very good. So, the one thing before we wrap up tonight, I want to dive into a little deeper is Backcountry United. And so, before we jump into that, I just want to make sure: is there anything still that you feel like we've missed or left out? In the discussions around your snowboarding, your guiding, the clinics you guys do. We've talked a little bit about lady clinics. Is there anything deeper you want to go into around ladies clinics, or just teaching ladies to ride?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a big one is we're going to do it March 20th.
Okay,
Really, we want it accessible to everybody, so it's affordable. We also give back to nonprofit organizations and be a part of the community. Yeah, so we just want to give everybody that opportunity to get on a snowmobile.
is that an event
But I
that
mean,
you
the
guys
coolest,
have on a calendar somewhere that
yeah,
people tell people where they can find that event?
yeah, it'll be up on our website here in the next 2 weeks. We're just finalizing
Okay,
sponsors.
okay,
So, yep, in the next 2 weeks, we're going to do it March 20th up on Rabbit Ears Pass, which will
very
be
cool.
cool. So, we'll do 3-hour riding slots and lunch and silent auctions and
Yeah.
raffles and lots of cool gear. So, it'll be fun. But, I think that's the other thing is like the snowmobile industry, right? Like How I Met You and Jon Miller, like we were just talking about. Like, it is incredible the people that you meet through snowmobiling, and
Networking.
you meet these
Yeah.
people when you go, yeah, and then you go into the backcountry with them and you trust your life with them, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Essentially. Um,
Well, it's people from
but
all walks of life. I mean, literally, the people
yeah,
I've met from snowmobiling are from every single walk of life. I mean, some are,
exactly.
blue collar workers, mechanics, tow truck drivers, like all those things on one end of the spectrum to literally executives of companies like on the other end of the spectrum, right? And
Yeah,
it's like, it,
exactly.
it, it's there for everybody. And that's the cool thing is we all come
Yeah,
together on the mountain and we're all good friends and we're all having a great time together no matter what. So it's awesome.
yeah. No, it's cool. So I've been just super fortunate to meet so many different people. Again, like Jon Miller introduced me to Tubi. Tubi outerwear has been
Nice.
incredible. I know you've got a fly thing going on tonight, but I
All
just
good.
do have to mention that
Yeah.
that is a full-on snowboard or snowmobile family tribe that I'm honored to be a part of. We got went on a really, really cool trip last year and got to film with them up in Alpine, Wyoming,
Nice.
and got some really cool shots. And so and again, it's like a family, right? We're
Yeah.
cooking dinner together, riding together all day. So super, super honored to be a part of that and Ortavox as well. But yeah, no, I think we covered a lot.
Yeah, we did. So what about Backcountry United? I think what's your role with Backcountry United? How did you first get involved in that? And then just for anybody who maybe isn't fully aware of it is like talk a little bit about what Backcountry United does and kind of how you support that. So
Yeah. So Backcountry United, is Jon Miller, and really, it's been kind of a crucial time for them this year with the backcountry being so popular, is, really getting this information out there, of the gear, of being, mentors and all that. I think the biggest thing that I came in with Backcountry United for is my background in nonprofit organizations. So I did a lot of fundraising for Steamboat Springs Winter Sports Club, and
okay,
so Backcountry United now has its 501c3. So really, I'm there helping with events. I'm a big event planner, so
very
helping with
cool.
events and initiatives with Backcountry United, and really getting out there. And yeah, it's an amazing uh, crew of board members on
Yeah,
there, and honored to be a part of it. But really is getting people aware, of getting them education and everything they need, and be at the forefront working with all these different forest services
hmm
and really bridging that gap between non-motorized and motorized users,
yeah,
right? And yeah, I mean, I could go on and on and on, but check out backcountryunited.com. Really cool what they're doing,
yeah.
and excited to be a part of what they're
Well,
going to become.
and
So
I'll just share personally something that happened
yeah,
in the last week here that involved Jon Miller from Backcountry United reaching out to me, and it's this is what happens across the entire country, and I just want to kind of give you guys a layout of like what Backcountry United is teed up to do and to support and how to get involved. It's you keep talking about how awesome the snowmobile industry is and the networking, but it goes even
hmm
at this level as well. Like networking is what this is all about. It's like who knows who can call who and influence who to make these decisions, things around land closures, to educate people. And I think that's the cool part is we as the snowmobile community, including yourself and Jon Miller, now are getting integrated with folks who have backgrounds who were non-motorized, right? And so
yeah,
we have someone like yourself or like Jon who you guys are hardcore snowboarders, in your past and even currently, you guys still shred like amazing snow, snow on snowboards, right? And you're
yeah,
you're you're integrated with those communities already, but now you're here and see what the snowmobile community is truly really about and can help bridge that gap between those communities to help explain things to people who don't understand the snowmobile and the motorized community, right? And so just this
yeah,
week, something that happened here in the state of Washington is up in I guess it'd be the northeast corner of the Cascade Mountains. There was a local forest service that shut down motorized use in the name of safety because the area was going to be being over, and it was just this rogue, and this is just me
yeah,
using, this is strictly my opinion, not speaking on behalf of
yeah,
any organization, but this forest service went completely rogue, didn't really get input from a whole bunch of different groups, including the Northwest Avalanche Center, the State Snowmobile Association, the local clubs, the state, all this stuff too. And they just were like, oh yeah, this area is getting overused, we need to cut down the usage, so let's just we'll just eliminate motorized users for the rest of the season. It's like,
yeah,
excuse me, you just did what? Like,
yeah.
excuse me? And it just created this whole riff and this turmoil like over the last week here. And my phone was ringing off the hook, and one of the phone calls I got was from Jon Miller, like, what the H is going
Yeah.
on up there, right? He's asking me what's going
Yeah.
on. He knows I've got connections with the Avalanche Center, with the state association, with the clubs, all the different things going on over here. And then, John was reaching out to folks who've fought these same kind of battles in things like the Tahoe area. So,
Yeah.
that network got there, and so that's what was happening is over this last week, there's just been a number of people throughout the country, all who have the ability to influence these things in the right way and educate people. And, John, myself, some of the people he put me in touch with, collectively, we've been able to get in touch now with, and I don't want to disclose too much publicly here because it's all still in
Yeah.
the works, but like the right people are talking to the right people finally, and we
Yeah.
believe that we can very quickly get this reversed. It's not, I haven't heard it announced yet or anything like that too, but those are the kind of things that Backcountry United gets involved in is like, hey, what can we
Yeah.
do to support and help,
100%.
and how can we educate the right
Yeah.
people to make sure they know what they're doing? So.
Well, not even that. It's not just motorized, right? That Backcountry United, like I
Hmm.
said, it's non-motorized, motorized. It's united, right?
Exactly.
You get
Yep.
all these non-motorized alliances,
Yeah.
that you know just don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of it's
and
just
and
educating
they're
each group, both sides of it, right?
exact
Yeah.
exactly 100%. Yep.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Very cool. So I just think we've had an amazing discussion here. I mean, we've got, Tori here who, snowboarder, met her husband on the mountain, got involved in the snowmobile rentals place up in Colorado. Um, a lot of cool things going on. So Tori, any final thoughts, any final words before we go ahead and wrap this up?
No, I just want to thank you. Thanks
Yeah,
for having
no
me on the
problem.
show. It's been so fun watching all your podcasts and getting to know everybody else in this industry too. I love it, and I hope to snowmobile and ride with you sometime. And I love
Oh, that'd be
again
amazing.
seeing
Yeah.
all your photos with your wife that you guys are out there together getting after it. So I love it, and thank you. And
Yeah. And that means a lot to me too.
yeah,
Like, that's something that you went out of your way to say to me in that last conversation. You said it again here now too. And that's super meaningful to me is that you're kind of cheering on, not only me for the show here, but my wife, right? Like that's one thing that, it's super, it means a ton to me because like she's the most special person in the world to me. And to have someone like yourself recognize what she's doing and how our dynamic is that like means the world to me. So I appreciate you bringing that up and giving Edith a shout out. That's amazing. So.
yeah, awesome.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on. And if anybody, has any comments or questions, feel free to drop them in there. And Tori, same thing. As soon as the show's done, once you get a few minutes later tonight or tomorrow, feel free to go into the comments and see if anybody, respond to anybody question or two. I've been kind of monitoring there too, and there's been a lot of kind of just, awesome guests and awesome show and all that kind of stuff too. But I didn't see any real
Well,
questions that popped up too much. But we've got some folks in there
I
sharing
know. I
some
was curious. I'm
good.
like here in the dark,
I
right?
know,
I'm
I
like,
know,
is
right?
anybody saying
Oh
anything?
yeah, yeah.
They
There's
can
all
see
kinds
me,
of
but I
comments
can't
there
see
too.
them.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just scan here quick. I'm just looking to see. Yeah, got a lot of people chit chat back and forth, saying hi, where they're
Yeah.
from. That's a lot of that. And then I know Galen has been sharing some information here around. Um, Galen's got a long name, so I always see if I can do it. So Galen, I don't even know how to say it. My apologies, Galen, but
Right.
Hellier
Is
is her
any of the
last name.
Tahoe
So.
boys on? Is Cameron on? Who do we have from Tahoe? Is anybody from Tahoe on there?
Oh, let me see here. We got.
I think they're on their Sled USA trip right now.
That could be. I know there's a lot of people this time of year that get ride, and people, it's a small
Yeah.
percentage of all the viewers watch live here, and then like usually over the next week here, we get a lot of different viewers and stuff too. But Galen says like, "Hi
Well,
Tori, let's go ride." So I know Galen's in Colorado as well there too. I believe she's in. So
nice.
cool. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, if anybody's up in Steamboat needs a tip on where to ride or whatnot, hit us up. And yeah, also we get a lot of people too that don't want to fly with their Avi gear. So I've
Oh yeah,
got some airbags to rent out if anybody needs that, if they come up here and ride and not want to travel with them. So
perfect.
again, thank you so much for having me, and I hope you have a great night. And I can't believe I was the first guest of 2021.
Oh
So
yeah,
I feel
like
honored.
ringing in the new year. Like that's awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
God bless everybody. Make sure you live large, which of course means live life to the fullest. Make the most of every day, including 2020. You got to make the most of it, right? And then make a difference to others. And so, Tori, you're definitely living large out there in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. So, God bless you. Have an awesome night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.